Hey, man.
Oh, hey. All right, man. Best of luck. Sorry, I just sent my roommate off. He's
All good.
he's driving with Uber too now, so
How's that going, by the way? What's driving for Uber like?
it's fun. You get pinged on your phone. It's like a notification system once you're signed in,
Right.
and they call. They send out a ping, and whoever accepts it, then you go pick up the person. The people are really nice. Some like to chat, some are quiet, but everybody's been really friendly and respectful of the vehicle and everything. Like I was a little afraid people were going to like mess up the inside of the car or something.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well,
But-
I mean, I think most people in general are decent. Like most people aren't bad. It's the rare exception that you find one that's a really bad, like just a shithead of a person.
Yeah, I mean, I'm from New Jersey originally, so I worked in retail and at a couple of universities, and like the shit that people would do to stuff that wasn't theirs.
Oh, I know.
Just
I've worked in customer service, man. It's not lost on me.
yeah, it's horrendous.
Yeah. So you don't have any crazy Uber stories yet?
Probably the craziest one. I picked up a group of real young guys, and they just the conversation that they were having was, I thought, very much age inappropriate.
Okay.
And like some of the stuff that they were just talking about, I was like, oh, wow. This is a little.
Well, what were they talking about? Just out of curiosity.
Oh, one of them, he was like, his dad had told him something that he had done with his mother sexually. Kind of bragged about it.
Wow.
I'm like,
Okay.
Shit, my parents had never talked about that when I was growing up.
Right.
That was inappropriate. So it was. And just how they were talking to each other too. Like, I guess because I'm in my 30s now, so I haven't been a teenager for pretty much half my life.
Yeah, I'm right there with you.
The world has changed.
It has very
Kids have
much.
changed. And it's
crazy for me to say that because I never thought I would get to the point where I could look back on like how I grew up and how I guess things have changed is just remarkable.
Oh yeah, like every kid I see now has a smartphone.
Yes.
When we were growing up, if you saw someone with a cell phone, you thought, "Oh wow, he must be somebody important or rich."
Yeah. Oh, you remember those big briefcase phones?
Yeah.
Yeah.
My uncle had. I'll never forget this. He had it was a Mercedes 560 SEL, the
Nice.
big long sedan.
Yeah.
And he had one of those dashboard-mounted car phones. He was ported.
That's
And I
so
remember
awesome.
he would take exit ramps in this car. And I was sitting in the front seat with him one time. We were coming back from getting ice cream or something. And the phone just popped off and went flying into the footwell. And he'd be like, darn it. And apparently that would happen all the time. And like, yeah, he was a banker. So I think he had one of the bag phones too.
Nice.
But it's crazy to think that we went from that to, iPhone.
Right. Now this has more, processing power than God knows how many things.
Oh, yeah. Like I was.
It has definitely more processing power than it took to get us to the moon. So, I mean, that's fucking saying something.
Oh, absolutely. Like my first desktop computer was, it was a Tandy TRS 80.
I remember those. Mine was a Commodore 64.
Ha!
I inherited it from my uncle.
I had one of those too. I had the 64, the VIC 20.
Yep.
I had an old, it was an old Amiga system, 520. You could play games on it.
Mhm.
And yeah. Oh, man.
I had an Apple II for a while that I used to run. I used to keep it in the corner to run a clock program. And that's all it would do. It would just keep time on the screen. But it was an old Apple II that was pretty cool.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I heard that you were in the tech field, right?
I was. I'm not anymore.
Okay. Is that something you're trying to get out of?
Well, see, my story, when I went to college, I didn't really know what I wanted to be when I grew up.
Mhm.
So I studied in an area that I figured, I'm good at languages and I suck at math. So I was a French major in college. And I said, if nothing else, I can always become a teacher.
Yeah.
So that's what I studied to be. I wound up getting jobs like one after another, fresh out of college in IT, because that's what was hiring, and
Oh
I
yeah.
knew what I was doing. So I was like, okay, this makes sense. And I stuck with it for the better part of 10 years. And 2 days ago, I was let go after 8 years with the company that I worked for. So I
Wow.
said, yeah, it's, in a way, it's a really shitty time for it to happen because I have a lot of things that are kind of up in the air, and I'm trying to fix a lot of, little fires and little broken pipes here and there.
Yeah,
And
that's about how it works. It's always the multitude of tiny little things that overwhelms you. It's never the big things.
yeah, and it's not that one of my favorite quotes is a Jewish proverb, and it's I don't wish, or I wish not for a lighter burden, but only broader shoulders.
Yes.
And right now, I'm kind of wishing that my shoulders were about twice as wide as they are, just so
Yeah.
I could carry this burden a little bit more
I
easily.
can imagine, but to put yourself through all this, I mean, there's got to be. Do you want to go back into the IT field, or do you want to find something else?
As of right now, no. IT is changing very rapidly. A lot of the companies that I've interviewed with in the past, over the past 8 years, I went on about a dozen or so different interviews. Someone would contact me with an offer. I'd say, what the hey, let's check it out, see what this is about. And in every case, I was told in the IT support field, like end user support, companies now don't look for technical skill. They don't look for someone who's trying to innovate. They're looking for soft skills, like people skills. And to a certain extent, okay, fine, people skills are necessary, and I get it. You can't have an asshole running your IT department because it's going to put people off. They're not going to ask for help.
I beg to differ, sir. I'm a professional asshole, and I've worked in IT for about 12 years.
Well, it also depends on the type of model that you have. The company that I just left, we were a shared services organization. So we were technically our own company that was owned by a holding company that owned all these other advertising.
Those aren't too bad.
And so but in our case, like we were very much, we treated our end users. We weren't even really technically allowed to call them users. We were supposed to call them customers.
Yes. I hate that.
I thought that was such utter bullshit. I fought that tooth and nail for 5.5 years.
But I think you're onto something for the reason that I'm rejecting the whole IT field is that I came up in IT as sort of the engineer. Like I've always been the creative problem solver. That's what I've done in IT for a long time. I was an ethical hacker for 3 years. I broke into banks professionally and showed them where the holes were and stuff like that. I did ethical hacking, social engineering, all that kind of good stuff. I really enjoyed my job, but there seems to be a shift where they corporatized everything. So the place for the creative thinking person, the person who's the creative problem solver kind of personality, there is no room for that in companies like that, or companies that have become over corporatized, because it's difficult for me to work in that sort of environment. So which is why I'm trying to get out and try to find other things to do besides doing the whole 9 to 5 thing.
Oh yeah. That was the other thing. I like driving with Uber, coming back to that, the flexibility of it. Like I'm not making the equivalent of what I was in IT right now, but I'm also not really trying to kill it. Like I've been easing my way into it, finding areas that I like driving in and working in, and I'm just kind of taking my time with it right now. It's a little bit of a cool off period after the whole, separation and everything. And yeah, I mean, the best thing I can say is, like, I like driving. I've always liked being behind the wheel on the road.
So it's fun. It's enjoyable.
Yeah. And so for me, it's pretty good. Like I'm thinking, I've got Uber right now. I'm going to try and find just a little part-time job. I'm thinking of like Cycle Gear or the motorcycle dealership in the area.
I'm really thinking about what I'm trying to do is get this sort of podcast thing up to the point where it's making at least a small amount of money.
Yeah.
And if it's making a small amount of money, that's enough to supplement me doing something else with my time. So going to work in a mechanic shop, or maybe I like cycle gear. There's lots of different places around that I'd be interested in working. I'm not interested in. I guess I've gotten to the upper echelons of the IT field as well, and I don't see anything there for me. Like, the money's great, but it doesn't hold any substance for me anymore. So it's difficult for me to stay focused and continually grow in that field. That's just not interesting to me anymore. So I think that's sort of another reason why I'm drifting away from it.
Definitely. I think another big part of that too, at least I found for myself, was the shift towards cloud-based
Oh yeah, that's another
services,
big thing.
applications and storage and data. It used to be there was a time where you needed that dedicated local guy
Right.
who knew everything, who was, just basically a walking encyclopedia of IT knowledge.
Yes.
That could fix stuff, could recover data, could do hardware repairs.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of that has gone away. I mean, now, like,
it has. I miss that though, because I really enjoyed that sort of environment.
Oh yeah,
I don't. But also at the same time, like, even though I feel like I'm kind of losing a career to this big push in technology and however everything's changing in that field, I'm not angry at it. Like, I really am excited for the whole IT technology thing. It's brilliant what they're doing, but I don't know. So, I think technology ultimately boils or turns itself into like the savior of mankind. If it's possible to ever be a thing, I think that's probably the most probable place to put our faith.
I think that to a certain extent, yeah, we have to put our faith into technology because at this point it's unstoppable, right? We're at the point now where we've got like machine learning going on at Google. I'm sure Apple's probably doing something along those lines.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Intel's working on supercomputers.
Have you seen IBM's Watson?
Yeah, Watson.
Oh, I love Watson. Watson's amazing.
One of my former congressman back in New Jersey, Rush Holt, went on Jeopardy against Watson when they had that whole tournament.
Oh yeah, I remember that. That was amazing.
Yeah, and it was pretty cool to watch a supercomputer compete on that show, and it was like, and the whole time I was thinking, like, this can't be real.
Did you hear what happened?
This is something like science fiction.
Did you hear what happened right before the show?
No.
Watson got a hold of what was it, Urban Dictionary, and so he began to use curse words.
Oh dear!
And so this was right before the show, so they had to purge that part of his memory bank of what's in Urban Dictionary.
Oh gosh, I hope he didn't get as far down as runny eggs.
Oh man,
I'm not going to explain it. Look it up if you want to know. But
yeah, there are some things that should not be Googled. You cannot. There are some things you cannot unsee, and unfortunately, eye bleach has not been invented yet.
Very true. Yeah, I think we live in a time though where I don't know what's going to happen next.
I don't either.
We're like in politics, and I'm not a very political person. I used to be, but after I became so disenfranchised with it, I just kind of
I gave up. It seems like it's a I don't know. It's a lost breath.
It is.
Yeah.
And I look at the people that are in charge and the people who want to soon be in charge,
Mm-hmm.
and I go, okay, yeah, so can't really rely on them for any help.
Right.
And I just got to sort this out on my own. And the best that I can say is, and I have no problem sharing this at all, really. I was, from a very young age, under the impression that all of life revolved around getting things.
Yeah.
Right.
I had that same impression.
Money, house, car. Nice
I did too. That's another. I guess the reason why I think I got so far is because my ideas about life were all based around gaining all of these material things.
Yeah. And my life became devoted to making money. I mean, I left a relationship. I left my family, most of my friends. I left the place that I grew up in and everything that I had ever known and moved 3,000 miles west to California last year under the auspices that I could become more prosperous here than I was in New Jersey.
I turned down a job in Virginia for making almost double what I'm making here. Simply because the reason I turned it down is their hours that they wanted me to work was something like 60 to 70 a week. Ooh. And I was just like, I can't. I'm sorry. I can't do that.
Yeah, you when you know your own limits and when you know what your standards are, and I mean, it's hard for someone who's in their early 20s to really know. You're still kind of figuring things out. And when I was in my early 20s, it's weird. Like I was thinking a lot the past few days over the past 8 years and all the things that I had done, and just like the stupid things, all the missed birthday parties, all the family events that I had to cancel on because I had to work, because I put my job in front of the things that really mattered to me.
Right.
And sure, I made a lot of money. I mean, I made enough to keep myself comfortable and to get to travel the world and to have nice vehicles and all these other things. And was it worth it? If I could go back and tell myself, 24-year-old me, who was like a year in at the job, I would say, get the fuck out of here right now and don't look back.
Yeah, I would do the same.
But hindsight is always 20/20. And I think the best thing that I've learned from all of this is that, the priorities really need to change, and they're starting to for me now.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm not going back to IT. I have no interest in it. I mean, if
go you, man, go you. Because if I all right, so my job is fairly easy job. Where I am currently, it's not bad, but it's I'm just sort of riding the coattails at this point in time. If I will do what I see as bare minimum, not necessarily bare minimum, but I do what they tell me to do. I get them whatever it is they ask for in the timeline that they ask me for. As far as anything beyond, like any of the applying any sort of creative thinking about bettering a process or anything like that, no. I'm working on existing processes that you have. You give me the process. I'm not working on that. Things like that. So I'll do up to a certain point for them. But if they fire me for that, I don't care. If it happens, great. I will go and go. I'll happily go back to making $32,000 a year easily. No problems. Like I'll go do $15-$20 an hour doing computer repair if that's what I got to do. At least in doing that, I enjoyed the people that I worked with. And I enjoyed the work that I did. It was fairly easy. I got it. So I've thought about doing that. I don't know, but I don't think I want to go back to IT. If I have to fall back on it, I will. But I don't think I want to go back.
What I would almost say do, because I'm planning on doing this in the next few weeks. I decided I'm not really going to start looking for a replacement full-time or part-time job for at least 2 weeks. I just want to give myself some time to think things over and, maybe do a little research, maybe take a couple of little quick online courses for a few different things. And what I would say do, though, is, look on Craigslist and just type in under gigs something that interests you. If it's playing guitar or a particular video game, or
I play a crap ton of instruments.
And see if you can get like a gig doing something that you like. Like one of the things I always liked the idea of trying was doing voice acting. Yeah. I've been told by many people that I have sort of a unique sounding voice that would be good for radio or television.
I've been told the same thing on quite a few occasions.
You do. I almost think you and I ought to make a podcast together.
That's not a bad idea. I'd be totally down for that.
Right? Like, we have the voices for it. We could be two ex-IT guys. Just
I'm for it.
Of our travails in corporate America.
So a few weeks ago, I had a guy on from Australia who's working on or at least the company or the organization he belongs to. They're working on artificial intelligence. Like they're promoting it and they're doing that sort of thing. So I had him on, and talking to him just blew me away because this guy is on so many levels more intelligent than me. It was just even difficult to keep up with the guy. But it was really, really good. I really enjoyed talking to him. He has some crazy ideas. We talked about simulation theory, which is the idea that we if it's possible to create a simulation of a universe over an infinite time scale, anyone can possibly, or that the likelihood of that created simulated universe is fairly likely. And within that simulated universe, it would also exist the same laws that would allow it to create a universe and so on and so forth at infinitum. And that more than likely, life is a series of these artificial universes, and we live somewhere along that chain.
That's pretty deep.
Yeah. It got pretty out there. So the podcast tends to go in some very strange places, but I kind of like it. I really enjoy talking to people. I enjoy I guess I just enjoy that human interaction. I don't get it a whole lot in my normal everyday life. So I don't know, but I enjoy it. I enjoy exploring like everyday people's stories and their thoughts and ideas about the world. And I found that there's a lot of beautiful stuff out there that I think could be spread through my channel, acting as sort of a catalyst for all of these wonderful people.
You know, the way I see it is, if everyone's got a story, right?
Right.
And everyone has a unique talent, ability, intelligence, feature about themselves, something that is specific to them. And if through this type of a medium we're able to get those stories out into the world for others to see and hear, who knows what opportunities that can create.
Exactly.
It's a wonderful thing.
So that's my idea behind the channel. I just want to sort of build a sounding board for people. And I don't want just like a community of people that just watch the show and they're like, oh, whatever. I want people to feel like they can actually communicate to me and come on the show. And I want it to be as open as I can possibly make it.
I think that's awesome. I mean, it's the idea of almost like
it's a community thing.
Pub.
Yeah, virtual pub. I kind of like that. Yeah.
It's like people just kind of come in and come out. It's a place to vent and congregate and ask questions and be like, hey, I have this idea, and does anybody else think this would work? Or, hey, I'm having a hard time, and I could really use some help right now.
Or if somebody needs, like a sounding board, because I know, lots of times I've talked to friends, and I need sort of a sounding board for my ideas, because I'm not sure if they're good or bad. Like, you have to share them with people to figure out really if they're good or bad. They'll help you explore them and flesh them out a little bit. It'd be brilliant to have people on the show to bounce their ideas off of me, and bounce their ideas off the community, not necessarily me,
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, I guess I can throw you an idea that my roommate and another friend of ours has. We want to start a private livery service that ties in with some of the wineries in Napa and Sonoma counties. Now, there's black car services already. There's like Lincoln Town Cars, Jaguars, Cadillacs, things like that. And those services tend to run up to or over $1,000 a day.
Of course.
Now, how many millennials and their girlfriends or boyfriends or whoever does anyone know that's willing to spend that much money?
Here's I've got a solution for you. The cheap man solution for you. The cheap man solution for you. First off, there is like a caveat to this. You do have to have decent credit. You have to have some decent credit, but go ahead and dress up in your nicest clothes that possible. Show up at a car dealership. Tell them that you've recently inherited quite a lot of money due to the death of a relative, and you're interested in buying their car or at least taking it for a test drive. A lot of times, they'll give you a really nice car to drive for a weekend, and it didn't cost you anything. And at the end of it, you say, "No, I decided on something else." It's a cheap and dirty way of doing it, but you get a really nice car and a really fun date. I mean, they don't always let you keep it for a weekend, but sometimes, you have it for an hour or two. Just tell them, hey, look, I'm going to run down to here and grab some lunch. It's awesome.
I like that idea. That's pretty good. What we're proposing to do with this business is have a tiered structure, basic, standard, and premium, 3 different types of vehicles to start out with.
Yeah.
And we just pick people up at their home or whatever designated location is at a set time. We take them to a winery. for tastings and other things. Then if they want to go to a restaurant or one of the shopping malls up there or something, we work out an itinerary for them. It says, all right, here's your day. It's planned to go. It's called the business itself, I guess the package, if you will. It's called Winery Weekends. And the idea is we'll even take it a step further. And if, say, you want to get picked up Friday night from your office, you're taken up to an inn. We drop you off. You say, all right, come pick me up at 11 a.m. tomorrow. Pick you up, take you over to the winery for your tastings. You can drink as much as you like, go shopping, do whatever you want to do. Mm-hmm. Call us when you're ready to get picked up. We take you to the next place, to the next, and then back to the hotel. Following day, you're ready to come home. Same thing, specified time. We pick you up, drop you off at your home, and good to go. In the interim, those people that are working with us, because of these cars that we're going to be using, we're planning on using Volkswagen Passats and Mercedes Metris vans. Mm-hmm.
I like those cars.
They're great.
Yeah.
The Passat that I purchased, it was an off-lease 2013, and it's the best car I could find for Ubering and a semi-limo service.
Right.
This car literally has the rear leg room you can get in a mid-size sedan, in this country at least.
Right. For Uber, do you have to have like a chauffeur license, or what's the what's the process for working for Uber or driving?
It depends on what city you're in. Like, I'm under the impression that New York is quite a bit different from the San Francisco Bay Area. Like, I think in New York you have to have a TLC or TNC license, which is Taxi and Limousine Company, or Transport Network Corporation. So out here, basically, to join Uber, they run a background check. They run a driving records check. Once you, like in my case, I signed up before I even had a car, and they kept pestering me to go and get the car inspected. So I contacted them. I said, I'm still trying to decide on what to get. I said, could you give me some guidelines to work with? I want to find a car that's really going to work well on your platform for the types of folks that are out here. And I'd narrowed it down to a few different vehicles. I was looking at Ford C-Max hybrids, the Ford Fusion, Nissan Maximas, and Volkswagen Passats. Mm-hmm. Maxima just didn't get the gas mileage that I was looking for, and it was really severely lacking in rear seat headroom. The C-Max was just ugly as hell, and they had tons of problems with the batteries in them, so I wasn't going to get involved with that.
Yep.
And it basically came down to, I had a wild card choice of a Nissan Altima, and I couldn't stand the interior, or the Passat, which I like driving, and it came in a stick shift, so I went, I'll take it. And this car has been wonderful. I'm getting like 30 miles to the gallon with it.
Oh, fantastic. Well, then you have more control over the gearbox.
The what?
I mean, with a stick shift, you have more control of the gearbox, so you can sort of play with the miles per gallon ratio.
Oh yeah,
you can play with it a bit better than an automatic.
Inching along in San Francisco, that car never comes out of second gear because I just keep it in second. If you let the clutch out, it'll just crawl. Yep. It'll crawl in first too. It's like a diesel truck, and it's the action on the clutch and the lever is so light. I mean, it's not fatiguing to drive it in heavy traffic.
Right.
Although I'm so used to driving stick shifts in heavy traffic, when I drive an automatic, I start to get sleepy. That's why I didn't want an automatic, because I was afraid I'd rear end someone.
Right.
But yeah, so out here, I took the car over to their inspection center. The people were really nice. They looked the car over. They basically are just trying to make sure it's not all banged up.
Right. They want to make sure it's a safe car. You don't want to, picking up their customers in a shitbox. You are still the face of the company as well.
Yeah. They check out the inside. They make sure there's because I was talking to the guys we make sure there's no burn marks or stains. It's not like dirty or anything.
Right.
Because we get rated by each passenger that we carry.
Right.
And people will ding you if your car's filthy. Like, I once gave a Lyft driver a 3-star rating because his car absolutely was filthy. There was like crap all over the place. I got out of it, and there was this gooey stuff on my pant leg from sitting in it.
Oh, man, no.
And I told him, I'm like, man, your car is filthy. Like, what's going on? And he's like, he just seemed kind of a scumbag to me.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is not cool. Like, you're not even trying. Like, get some wipes, clean your seat off. I keep a little bag of this stuff in my trunk. It cost me less than $5 at Target for some interior wipes.
Well, that was one thing that I was always taught, is that if you're going to do something, at the very least, do it correctly.
Yeah,
like, if you're going to do it correctly. Don't half-ass things.
Yeah, like it's weird though, because like the Uber community, and I don't understand the anger on the side of some of these Uber drivers. Like I've been reading on the forums, there's a lot of people who are pissed off about how Uber's doing things right now. They don't like
Why?
the percentage.
Is the percentage that they're not happy with?
Yeah, they don't like. Well, see, simultaneously, Uber raised the percentage that they take and lowered the fares. So I could understand people who are doing this full time got pissed off because they're like, well, you just cut my income by X amount.
Right.
Why would you do this? And, so I can understand there are some folks who are getting peeved by it. But at the same time, I mean, it's inevitable that was going to have to happen. There's so many drivers now.
Right.
The availability is so quick, and people are using Uber for short trips.
Yeah.
Like a lot of short trips. I mean, I can go out in Berkeley. It's 7:15 here, so if I drive up Telegraph Avenue into Berkeley a little ways, I can literally just stay within a mile radius of the Berkeley main campus, just ferrying people up and down, like the main avenues there.
Nice.
And, you get a few dollars for each trip. Yeah. Okay, fine. But if you do 30 or 40 of them in a night, you're doing okay.
Yeah.
It's not killer money, but you'll make money with it. The trick is you got to know where to be and what times to be there. Like I'll go and sit down in the airport queues when I'll look on flight trackers, see when a bunch of flights are all coming in right around the same time.
I see, and you'll show up and hang out there.
Yeah, and I go hang down at the airport. I'll get a fare to take them up into the city, and then usually I wind up getting somebody in the city, and I take them right back to the airport.
Right.
And you do 3 or 4 of those, that's good money.
Yeah.
So I think that like the folks that are getting pissed off about it aren't being smart about what they're doing. They're just it's almost like they're expecting that the money is supposed to come to them.
I see.
And really, they don't understand. Sometimes you got to go where the money is.
Of course. Yeah. Well, that's what I found with this whole podcasting thing. Like, for one, I'm not expecting to make anything on the podcast for the first year.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not expecting to make any money on it. After the first year, I think at that point I'll have enough, at least, work in the basket to present to people and say, look, I've got this work. I have X number of subscribers, and then I can start building on that. And I'm looking to cover at the moment, like I've bought all my equipment that's out of pocket. No one's giving me that money. That's quite a lot of equipment, especially for the studio I have going.
Cool.
And there's just a lot that I've really invested in. Like I've got a syndication company that this goes through. I pay them a monthly fee. It's not a whole lot, but it's decent. It's got an upload rate and all that kind of good stuff, and that puts me on iTunes and like 5 or 6 other different places. So I'm really trying to make this thing work.
That's awesome, man. If there's any way that I can help you with all of this, I'd love to. I've got a lot of time on my hands now, and I like the idea of working on lots of little projects and some big projects, and just, I've got the car service business starting up. We're going to try and do a much larger service with vans eventually.
With vans. Oh yeah, I remember a Facebook poster or something about this. What's the idea there?
Yeah, so the Mercedes Metris it's a new commercial passenger and cargo van that Mercedes is marketing in the U.S. It's like a Sprinter but smaller. Mm-hmm. So it's not as tall, it's not as huge. It's designed to be more useful in like a city environment, but it's still useful on the freeway. And I went and I looked at one, and I was really impressed by it. I said, okay, the interior's nice enough. They're not that expensive. They seem to have a pretty durable powertrain system, and Mercedes has good lease rates on them.
They do.
So I was like, we could get probably 3 or 4 of these 7-passenger models, and then we can do small party vans, right? Say a whole family wants to be taken up to Napa for the day, right?
That'd be fun. Yeah. 2
parents, maybe a family friend, and their significant other and a couple of kids, mm-hmm. right? So you fit them all in the van. You have a driver for the day. They park in the lot. They drop you off wherever. You're ready to get taken to the next place. They come around, get you. There's other services like that out here already. And the only difference I think that we're going to try and approach what this is, and it may seem silly, but I think it'll make us more visible. All the car services that I've ever seen, my grandfather drove taxi cabs. I have a couple of cousins who've worked on like as drivers for different services and things.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone usually does black or white vehicles. What I'm proposing to do is to have what we're going to call the Champagne and Merlot fleet. And basically, we're going to have either champagne gold or like a dark red color.
Mm-hmm.
Volkswagen, it's Fortana red. Mercedes-Benz, it's Barolo red. But the idea is that to kind of tie it in with the wineries and everything, you have wine and sort of like champagne colored vehicles. It just kind of fits in a little bit better, I think, with the whole theme.
Yeah.
I don't really want to do like a bunch of graphics or logos or anything. I want to keep it classy and kind of minimalist.
Simple.
And offer it to a clientele that is younger, maybe a little bit hipper.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're aiming for millennials, basically. We're looking to try and market to people that are like 21 to, say, 35.
Yep.
Maybe 40.
Right.
You know, people in their 60s, the type of people in their 60s that want to go to the wineries and be driven there are the type of people who can afford or want to be driven in a Lincoln Town Car or a Jaguar XJ.
A Jag.
Oh, the Jag.
I love the Jag.
Yeah. Oh, yes, me too. If money were no object, I would have...
oh, yes.
Just Jags.
Oh, yes. They're brilliant.
Brilliant, gorgeous, incredibly graceful looking.
Yes.
Drive fantastically.
See, I've never been able to drive. I've ridden in a couple of them. I've never been able to drive one.
I've driven a few, and even old ones are amazing.
So you're a car guy or an engine guy?
I pretty much anything mechanical.
Yeah, I'm very much the same way.
Like everything from mechanical wind-up wristwatches all the way up to...
I love the ones that are like clear, like you can see through and like see all of the gears and everything. Those are like some of my favorite.
I got a couple of those, and I would sit there sometimes just mesmerized by it, watching the escapement going around and the spring just unwinding itself very slowly. But pretty much everything from that all the way up to hydroelectric power plants and everything in between.
I love knowing how things work, like on mass or in every scale, really. That was probably part of what made me go into computers. Was originally I got into it was adding memory to my Commodore, or it was something to that effect. And it's just the fascinating. Or actually, it's probably before then, like taking toys apart and stuff like that.
It's.
I've always been fascinated with the whole mechanics thing.
Yeah, it's like learning how things work, and then you start with something small. Like I remember as a kid, I think the first thing I ever took apart that I got caught by my parents taking apart, because when I went to put it back together, I did it wrong, was one of our toasters. And I think my pop went to make toast. And something happened because I heard him shouting, and I came downstairs, and the toaster had a big burn mark in the middle of it. So it's possible that when I put the wires back in,
you shorted it to the sidewall.
Yeah, I think so.
That's so good.
Another time was a CD player. We had one of those, the carousel ones.
Yeah.
5 CD changer. And it stopped going around. So I told my dad, I'm like, here, it's already broken.
I'll take it apart. Let me see. Yeah.
Let me see if I can fix it. And it turns out it had these little drive belts. They were like tiny little rubber bands. One of them had broken. So I said, okay, I'll just put a rubber band on it. It'll be fine. So I put a rubber band on, and it worked for a little bit. And then everybody was happy. They put a bunch of new CDs in it to try it out. And of course, the rubber band broke, and then it wouldn't open again. And so that was the end of that CD player. But that was kind of my beginning. And after that was just... It went to hell in a handbasket. Like I had a Saturn back in college, and I was bored one summer. Wasn't doing much on a Saturday afternoon, so I said, "Oh, you know what? I'd gotten a service manual for it. I said, let me take apart the cylinder head here and just check the valve clearances on it. It had 100,000 miles on it.
About time for that, anyway.
Yeah, so I go in there and I start tinkering with the engine and everything, and I got it all back together, and it ran even better than before I took it apart. But I've always had a fascination with mechanical things.
Mhm.
So I think, if anything, that's probably the next career field I may try and go into. Is
I've thought about it, going into a mechanic career, because I thought I really enjoy, like, I love working on my bike, or I enjoy mechanical work. It's really, I don't know, it's like like a state of meditation for me. I love I love just wrapping my head around the ideas, like, why they do this. Oh, this is why they did this. I just enjoy that whole aspect. And it's also physical, and I can manipulate it with my hands and stuff. I don't know, something visceral and fulfilling, or I don't know even if that's the right word, but there's something that just speaks to me in that work. So I've thought about doing it. The problem is the people in which typically find themselves in those careers, or at least around here. Oh man, they're fucking exhausting to put up with.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't understand how that works. I've hung around in a lot of auto shops and
Yep.
bike shops and stuff like that. And some of the folks that work there tend to be very nice and professional and
Right.
everything. But the thing that always got me was, if you ever watch any TV commercials for any sort of servicing, and it doesn't matter what it is, if it's a
Mhm.
Jiffy Lube commercial, I saw one once for like some sort of a service plan thing for Volkswagen. I've seen them for all these different things. Um, and they'll show this spotless garage, right? And the walls are perfectly clean, and they have all these manufacturer posters and everything.
You're right.
On.
You're very
There's
right.
safety logos everywhere, and you think, "Oh wow, my car's going into like a surgically clean operating room."
No.
No.
Oh,
Mechanics.
in doing IT work, we did. I think all the major car dealerships in this area. The company I worked for was Managed Services, and so we did the IT support of all of these places. And most of the times, the computers that were out in the shop got beat to hell, pretty much, out there in the shop. And so you'd go in there to fix computers, and yeah, you got a pretty good idea about the kind of work environment they have. It's fascinating. Some of the places are relatively clean. Like if they're a big, like, major dealership, their floors run very, very, very clean. But some of the smaller places, it gets dark.
Yeah, it's weird. Like it's so funny. I never bought a car from a big dealership, and I never did business with big dealerships because
don't blame you.
mind I always thought, oh, these are, this is corporation owned. It's not a small family business. Like, and I would always kind of shy away from that because I like supporting small businesses. So I always bought all my vehicles from, like, if I had a choice, like when I bought my Volkswagen, I went down to Hayward because it was a tiny little family owned dealership.
Yep.
I was like, all right, this is cool. It's been the same family. They've run it for like 20 something years, and they've done really well with it. And I was like, yeah, okay, this is cool by me.
Mhm.
And I had a really nice experience with them. I look at some of the other dealers, and they're huge, and it's like their lot is endless. And I go, God, I'm just going to be treated like another number here. I'm not interested.
Well,
but
the part I don't like about it is the big dealerships, when they try to sell to you, like, they're really push.
Yeah.
Like, as the smaller places, they treat you more like a person and not just a number, not just another sale for them to get.
Exactly. The only exception to the rule with the bigger places was I did have a Saturn that I bought new.
Right.
And that was from a fairly large dealership. Like, it was huge. And they treated me really well. Like the Jim Rosa, I even remember his name. He was my sales guy. I have no idea whatever happened to him, but he was a super awesome guy. He sent me birthday and Christmas cards for like 3 years, thanking me still
Nice.
for buying that car from him. And I was like, what other salesperson have I ever met that would do that?
That's
like
an intense.
Yeah, that tells you that they really appreciate your business. And maybe he was trying to get me to come back to buy another one.
Probably when it was time for you to buy another one. Yeah. That's a decent pitch.
If they had stayed in business, I'd have one in the driveway right now.
Of course, yeah.
And it's a shame that they're not. But yeah, and that's like the thing I like with our car service that we want to have is we really want to treat our customers and our passengers like, I don't know how else to describe it. Like, we want to give them the red carpet touch.
Warm fuzzies. You want to give them warm fuzzies. That's the engineer speak for corporate speak. Warm fuzzies.
Yeah,
that's just what they need.
I've ridden in hire cars that have gone places where, like, we asked if we could stop for a bathroom and the person said no because we were on a schedule. Like, that's bullshit.
Yeah, that is total bullshit.
If I'm paying you, I'll, dude, 5 minutes. I just need to take a leak. Like,
Yeah.
what's the problem? Oh, no, sir, I'm sorry. I have a schedule to follow. Well, 5 minutes?
5 minutes?
Really?
Right.
You could always say there was traffic because guess what? There's going to be.
Yes.
And, so we're trying to. It's going to be very interesting to see how this pans out. I'm having to figure out a lot of things very quickly. I originally intended to start this July 4th weekend, and now we're looking at starting the first week of March.
Okay.
So I've got a month to get the business set up.
I wish you the best, sir. Is there anything I can do to help? I have a very small audience, but by all means, let's put the word out there.
Yeah, I mean, if anyone is going to be interested, we don't have the Facebook page set up yet because we're still finalizing a few things, and we need to actually get set up as a legal business.
Well,
but
here's my idea. So as the once you guys do get set up, you come on again, and we'll do. You can do a pitch for your new business, and we can talk about engines or cars, vehicles, bikes, and stuff like that.
Cool. I'm looking forward to it, man.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much time you have. Because I understand you have to get out of here kind of early.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to head out in about 10 minutes or so. I'm taking some friends into the city. It's my buddy and his girlfriend. They're going out to a nice dinner. So I said, I'll drive these over, and then I'm gonna Uber for a couple hours and then head back.
Yeah. I love how you use Uber as a verb. That was amazing. Just gonna Uber for a while.
Yeah,
I dig it. It's I don't know. It's just kind of cool.
It's definitely.
So do you get to set your own hours? Like, do you just go?
Oh yeah.
That's brilliant. That has to be amazing. I would love that.
I'm actually tempted. I think I may one or two nights this coming week. I may do some overnight driving.
Okay.
Like into.
I bet you that's going to be some interesting.
Well, yeah, that's the idea.
There.
Like,
you're going to be going between like nightclubs and homes or bars and homes.
Yeah, I'd think bars and homes, late airport runs for people who are coming in like on red eyes. If you get someone who's flying in from like Asia or Europe, there's a good chance their flight may not get into San Francisco until like 2 a.m.
That's true.
And so, for those folks, like getting a taxi, they could.
I got into, when I flew into UK, I get into Birmingham, I think at like 4 a.m.
Ooh.
Oh, man, it was rough.
Yeah, that's...
But luckily, the flight over, there was like maybe 6 people on the whole plane.
Really?
Oh, it was great. I loved it.
They let a plane go all the way to Birmingham with only 6 people?
There was like... it was probably more than 6 people, but there was like... It was abandoned. Like, it was... There were like 2 or 3 rows like just completely empty ahead of me. There was no one straight across from me. There were a couple people... Like, there were just... I don't know, maybe 20 people? It wasn't many people at all. But it was awesome. I loved having that much room. It was great. I got to lay out on all the seats and sleep through most of the night. It was good.
And the only reason I could guess they did that was that's probably a repositioning flight. They're gonna, send it over to the UK and pick up like a full plane and then bring it all back.
Probably.
They do that with cruise ships sometimes, where they'll do. My parents take these a lot. They'll get cheap cruises with, I think it's Royal Caribbean. And it's like it'll leave out of San Juan and then go to Bermuda. Mm-hmm. And it just does Bermuda to New Jersey. So then they leave from San Juan, go to Bermuda, and then come back to New Jersey where they live. And you could do it, it's like half price. The only difference is instead of getting, say, every day you're at an island, you might get for 3 days at sea. Then you have Bermuda and then, back to the East Coast.
Right.
But it's a cool way to travel. And it's like, if you don't like having to worry about where you're going to eat or anything, it's great because everything's taken care of. Your food's on the ship, all your entertainment's there.
I've been on one cruise. It was a company paid event kind of thing where they got everybody in the company to go on a cruise, like for the 10-year anniversary, small company. But it was fun. And they took everybody out on a cruise, and it was to Cozumel, Mexico.
Oh, nice.
And, well, the cruise was the worst part. So there was a hurricane in the Gulf, That we had to go around, and so all right, so there was a hurricane in the Gulf, so the whole time, like, our room is at the very front of the ship, so the whole time the ship's just up and down. It's just rough seas. So it was no staying in the front of the ship. Like, I slept in on the deck with the pool, just to get away, because it was center to the ship, and it was just easier to get away from the motion.
Jesus.
I mean, I didn't get seasick at any point in time. I did puke my guts out, but I think that was probably because I was drunk as a skunk the night before. It could have had something to do with either or. I'm not really sure. But coming back into port, like, we had to wait outside the Mississippi because it was like they had just heard a hurricane come through, so they closed the Mississippi River, so they weren't letting any ships in. So it's like, okay, so we just sort of hung out there. We didn't get into port until like 11 at night. Customs had already gone home. So we had to wait even longer on the ship for them to get the customs people back in to go through. Yeah, it was miserable.
Jeez.
Yeah. So but the actual, like, the cruise itself, I wasn't all that impressed with. It was basically just a week-long bender because there was nothing to do on the ship except for drink, and so we did a shit ton of that. And then when we got to Cozumel was awesome. We really enjoyed that. The first thing we did as soon as we got off, we didn't stay in any of the touristy areas or like right there at the dock. We went and got a cabbie, which basically you pay him $100 and he's your cabbie for the day. Like, he's just yours for the day. And so we went and got some Cuban cigars, and then we told the guy, let's go where you go to drink. Like, where do you hang out? Where's your place to go? And so he took us to this little place, and there was no one there except for like the owner and two people behind the bar and our cabbie and us. And there were 6 of us, and we ate all we could eat food. And we drank like a case and a half of beer and like half a bottle of tequila, and it cost us like $60.
Man.
And we ended up getting them like 120. We're like, dude, we had a great time. No one there spoke English except for our cabbie, and his English was meh. But it was awesome. I really had a good time. And then we went back to the boat. That was it. That's all we did. We just went to that one bar and hung out, and we went and got cigars first and hung out, and that was it.
Sounds pretty relaxing, though.
But it was amazing. I loved it. I liked being, like, I've got pictures of, like, the bar owner and me, like, hugging each other. Like, it was a really cool, like, just the experience of that was really cool. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I haven't. The longest I've been in Mexico was about 12 minutes in the very early 90s. My great-grandfather had passed away. He was living in Tucson, Arizona. And my grandfather said, well, since we're out here anyway, we ought to take some road trips and just kind of go see the sights.
Yeah.
So we did. And one of the trips is he wanted to go and see Mexico. So we go to Nogales, Mexico. And we get through, there's Nogales, Arizona, and Nogales, Mexico. So we get through the checkpoint at the border, and they just let us drive through. Because
of course, they don't give a shit.
You're Americans in a rental car, you're just coming down. So we go through. And we pull off to the side, and we get out of the car, and there's a couple of guys on one corner that look a little shady, and there's a very scantily dressed woman and what looked like her, I guess handler or whatever, on the other corner. And my grandfather looks around, and he looks up the street, and he sees titty bars and, like, gangbangs, and turns around and starts walking back towards the car and says, all right, get in the car, we're going home.
Yep.
And I'm like, aren't we going to Mexico? He's like, we just did.
We're in Mexico.
We apparently went into, like, just an area that it wasn't really very touristy or family friendly. And so that's the only time I've ever been there.
Well, here's the thing about Cozumel is that all of the people that live there, they make their money from the tourism industry. So it's really, really, really safe. Like, even at night, it's totally safe. Because they self-police. Like, if somebody does something to a tourist, it basically means tourists don't come to that island anymore.
Yeah.
And that is bad for everyone because then no one there is making money. So it's a really, really cool community there. I talked to the cabbie for like hours about it. It was great.
Awesome.
So it's a really safe place, and it's a really cool community, especially if you get into the not the touristy level that supports all of the just the standard person, but the people that are looking for like a really interesting experience. That culture's there. You just have to dig a little bit and you'll find it.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I'm going to add that to my list of places to visit with the KLR in the next couple of years.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm going to take that bike, and it's got most of the things it needs to do adventure touring. I just got to put a little bit more into it.
See, I bought myself a KLR before I got my triple, and it's a good little bike. It's a good little bike, but for what I was using it for, like interstate riding on the bike is not all that great. I didn't have the gear set for it really, and I ended up selling it before I even bothered.
Yeah, even mine, it's got the bigger sprocket to make it run a little bit better, lower RPMs on the freeway, but it's still starting to run itself out at about 80 miles an hour.
Yeah, that's about where mine would peter at about 70. Like, and I could get it up to 80, but at 70, it would just, I couldn't. There was no real pickup to get to 80. It was just a slow build.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's no high speed passing.
No. But I click down, it's like, wow, it just sounds, it's my little tractor. That's all it is.
Oh, yeah. And like, I've discovered, though, I can't believe I'm saying this either, but as I get older, slowing down actually.
I know, it's nice, isn't it?
Yeah,
I don't need the big bikes. I don't need the big, super fast, retarded thing. I just want something that's good. I just want some quality.
Oh yeah, like I still have Ziggy. Mm-hmm. He's not going anywhere. I mean, he's on my arm now, for fuck's sake.
Yeah.
So, and like rides with that bike now, it's not so much about how fast it can go. Mm-hmm. It's about where it's going to take me and how comfortable I'm going to be getting there.
Exactly.
You know, and like that's why I get why so many older guys ride sport tours. Is because you can go fast as hell on one of these things, but they're
also comfortable.
Yeah, even if you don't want to go fast, you don't have to. You know,
right?
Although it kind of begs you to. At least mine does. I mean, anything where your tachometer has a 10,500 RPM red line is basically saying, please, use this range.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's
I never had the chance to ride one. But when I went and took my original bike course, I don't remember what it was. It was an older one, but it was a sports tour. And but yeah, you could tell just from the sound of the bike was really good. And then like he'd take off, like going down, exiting the parking lot. It was basically a big parade ground, and he'd take off, and you could hear it's just like, yeah, that's got some ass to it. It's definitely there.
Oh yeah, I mean, pretty much anything from the BMW K75 or the first gen Connie, the ST1100.
See, I'm scared to put myself on a good Beamer because I'm afraid I'll buy it.
Yeah, BMWs. The thing I recommend with any of the higher end bikes, because a lot of them they got too many electronics built in,
that's one thing I'm very cautious about. I like simple and function.
Yeah. I just wrote a whole Reddit post about Volkswagens and how people.
Oh, I love those. If I could get my hands on an old bus, I would totally love to get an old bus going.
Oh yeah, I'm all about the Carmen Ghia myself. I love them. That'd be the ultimate sports car for me.
Exactly.
And I had said, I was like, you can buy a German car or a German bike. They're very good if you buy the standard model.
Yeah.
If you get a standard BMW like R1200 RT without the radio or the nav system in it, or the electronic suspension or any of those other stupid electronic interfaces, the ESP on BMW bikes, when that fails, that's like $2,000 to $3,000 to fix.
Yeah.
And most people, what they do is they go and they get a Wilbur's shock or something similar, and they upgrade to that. But then you've got this row of buttons that you paid all this extra money for.
Yep,
you
can't does nothing. Right.
So I'm like, why do you even bother? And then I went to a BMW dealership once, and I said, can I get a base model RT without a single option on it? And he said, not without special ordering it.
Yeah. That's so disappointing.
Stupid. The base model is what the engineers designed.
Right.
The top of the line model with every single option box ticked is what the
salespeople
demanded.
Yeah.
And the difference is that when a finance guy says put $3,000 worth of electronics into a vehicle and charge $10,000 for the privilege of having it, he's doing so because he only cares about that $7,000 profit they're going to make on those electronics.
Right.
And it's. I think that's where the reputation for like BMWs have a reputation for being clunky as they get older, and it's all the electronics that do it.
Exactly. But I've always admired the engineering of the BMWs. Like the actual mechanics is really well done. Like some of the older BMWs, if you keep them up, they're still really good cars.
Oh yeah, and their powertrains, their gearboxes were phenomenal. The old
Yeah.
dogleg 5-speed was great to row through. My one buddy had an old it was a 530
Nice.
that had that straight six in it, and just a great car. I mean, it was super squat, and it would corner really flat, good brakes. The newer BMWs, I'm not super keen on the interiors. I don't like the center console with that iDrive knob and all that.
Yeah, and I was never a big fan of that.
I don't like touchscreen interfaces to begin with, and having one in a car, like the fingerprints on it, would drive.
I like
me.
my car to feel analog.
Yeah.
My car needs to be analog. It's a real physical part of the world. I want it to be analog and feel as real and clunky as possible. I like the mechanical, smooth but clunky.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm gonna have to get bouncing here in a minute.
Yeah, man. I understand. These conversations tend to go this way. They just sort of wander forever.
It's all good.
Yeah. But I appreciate you coming on, man. I'm really looking forward to having you on again. And we should definitely bounce some ideas around. Maybe we can come up with some ideas for a show.
Yeah, awesome. I mean, you got my number, so hit me up.
Certainly.
And thanks for having me. This was great. I can't wait to come back. And at some point, we got to figure out a way to get you out here.
Yes,
so
most definitely. Well, actually, this summer I'm going to be up in. Let me see. I'm going up to South Dakota and over to Wyoming, or at least maybe. I'm also having another child, so I'm not sure how the wife will be. So if the doctor says everything's good, then we're going to go up there. And my sons haven't seen real mountains; they've only seen some hills that they tend to call mountains. So I'm going to go over to Wyoming, and we're going to do the whole Yellowstone bit. Take them through and see some real mountains. I think that'll be that'll be fun.
Yeah, man, that'll be a trip and a half.
But yeah, so that'll be probably the closest I'm going to be to you. But
maybe I can meet you up there. Never know.
Hey, man, if you're free, yeah, well, I'll let you know if we're coming up there.
Sounds good. I'm always up for a road trip to the Tetons or Yellowstone. Or Cody or any of those.
Well, that was one of my favorite and most memorable rides ever. Is I'd went up to Sturgis for a while, but I stayed for like a day or two. The party scene really wasn't my gig, but I did that. I rode all the way over to Yellowstone, and then I think it was called Skyline Drive. It basically just follows the spine of the Rockies all the way down. Oh, it was so beautiful. It was the most amazing ride. It was amazing. I loved it to death.
And I want to go back and do Route 6 in eastern Utah again. That's.
If you go do that, I want in on that, man. I definitely want in on that. All right, man. I'm sorry. It keeps going. Let me let you get out of here, man. I think. Thank you. Appreciate you coming on, and we'll have to do it again.
Great. Looking forward to it. Thanks again for having me, and talk to you soon.
Yeah, man. Later.
Peace.